Oh boy, TV and streaming advertisers, they're unhappy. And so in today's video, we're going to be focused on the underperforming media sector and the impact that it's had on those very same advertisers, the people who actually pay the bills for all these studios and networks and streaming services. They're frustrated. With declining TV ratings and the rise of, different types of streaming, especially digital options like other platforms like YouTube and Rumble and Odyssey and other things, advertisers are pushing for a rollback in their ad rates, and you can't blame them because they are paying for reach and they are reaching fewer and fewer people. And when you start dividing the streaming landscape up, they're really reaching less humans. So we're going to explore some ongoing discussions between the media companies, their advertisers, and kind of analyzing what the potential rollbacks are going to be, at least in terms of cost per thousand viewers. For us here on the video platforms, that's basically called CPMS. CPMS is just basically a cost per click metric. Also going to be looking at some contributing factors to the weakening TV advertising market, including obviously economic challenges. You and I have less money, the splintered TV audiences, again, amongst all these different services, and the looming threat of the impact of the Hollywood writers' strike, and of course now the Screen Actors' strikes. We're going to take a look here at the factors that are shaping the TV business overall and what it's going to mean for advertisers, networks, and viewers going forward. You may get more ads. Let's dive in. Here we go. So, what did the show executives say to the TV advertisers who demanded lower rates? Sorry, but our show is a comedy, not a tragedy.
That was a joke.
Yeah, Grant, that one didn't land.
This is not my fault, though.
So, for TV and even for streaming, advertising is headed into a terrible, stormy period, for lack of a better way to describe it, as advertisers are demanding some price rollbacks that the streamers and the networks can sorely afford. I think this is going to put them in a world of hurt. And it's all because of the declining TV ratings that we're seeing regularly. I mean, who can forget that, we used to see 20 million views on a regular comedy show, and they're lucky if they get even half of that, usually about a quarter, to be fair. And with the popularity of streaming itself, you're further dividing the audience and reducing the reach. So even those video options are, becoming less exciting for a lot of these digital ad tech advertisers. So recently, in a bunch of reports, a bunch of media buying executives at 3M have revealed that they're negotiating between TV networks and advertisers with, some harsh realities. And with those talks underway, some of the deals are potentially painful because they are reducing the CPMS rates by as deep as 5%. That's huge.
Wow, 5%.
For the weaker linear inventory, you could expect more. For the stronger, maybe less. You might even see even more cuts here on digital platforms like the one that you're seeing me on right now. YouTube actually, in an effort to thwart some of this, has recently adjusted some monetization requirements, and we'll jump into that here a little bit. That'll obviously drive more people, more creators to jump in and create content because they'll feel like they can get to some kind of monetization earlier, but we'll get into those details here in a moment. Now, this shift actually marks a significant departure from previous years. CPM increases were, jumping up 8 to 12%, and that was the norm. So sometimes even higher depending upon the quality of the programming. The weakening TV advertising market right now is further evident in the reduced spending from advertisers across the board. In fact, various industries such as pharmaceutical companies, those are traditionally heavy TV spenders, and they're showing much more mixed support in 2023, likely because they're falling under additional scrutiny in a lot of different ways. We'll set that particular animal aside for the moment. Automakers are actually still grappling with supply chain issues to a certain extent and are, overpricing their vehicles. So most people just aren't there to demand them. That's also a huge problem. So they've been very, very cautious with their advertising budgets, and you probably haven't seen nearly as many of those commercials outside of maybe YouTube and Twitter, where they seem to be leaning hard into advertising on. Lots of promoted tweets for cars right now. Now, technology advertisers have also scaled back, and there's a lot of reasons for that. They've had stock downturns, for a nice way to put it. They've been drying up in the areas of venture capital. Nobody's trying to buy this stuff off anymore. And they've had significant layoffs because they're really trying to stay alive and around for a while. And there's some big ones that you wouldn't think would be having trouble, but AOL didn't look like it was going to have trouble either. The market changed. So far, though, you haven't seen them reducing a whole lot in the areas of packaged goods, at least as far as advertising goes. So anybody that does consumer packaged goods are holding steady and maintaining their current levels of market share of advertising, despite all the inflation-related challenges that exist now for them. But that makes a lot of sense. Everybody still has to sell their product to somebody, and it doesn't mean that they're not going to ask for cheaper rates, and because they will. So to say this environment is fickle would be an understatement. It's actually impacting the total volume of dollars committed to broadcast and cable TV networks, with the expectation of a double-digit percentage decline, the reality and not the fantasy, which is really bad. Streaming, of course, is getting hit pretty hard, but it's nothing that's as catastrophic as this decline for TV would be, to say the least. In contrast, digital volume is actually expected to, or projected to remain flat or experience a very low single-digit percentage decrease, like 1 to 3%. But nothing like these 2 digits that they're often talking about here, which would be terrifying to platforms that are driven by ad tech. And contributing to all of this is elevated competition, at least as far as the broader marketplace. The sudden rise of Rumble and gaming streamer startup Kick, well, they've pulled consumer revenue and advertising wider with their free speech appeal, and the ability to basically thumb your nose at the establishment, who has been keeping down the man a lot more recently. So as I mentioned before, it's no wonder that YouTube has actually relaxed its stance on certain videos, making formerly verboten claims. That means forbidden in German, by the way. And the dynamics amongst all the major players on the TV streaming side have the market shifting, well, pretty wildly. Disney, with its very large ESPN platform and their sports portfolio, of course, which they're taking more and more onto the digital side of things, and of course their Hulu streaming platform, which they're going to be forced to take over at the beginning of 2024, they have some leverage when it comes to digital advertising because they're ubiquitous, they're all over the place, and if you want your ads, you're usually buying them in bundles. Now, Fox is prioritizing its streaming service Tubi because that brings a lot of eyeballs to their video hub, and you've got Warner Brothers Discovery adjusting their ad tech approach after they frustrated a bunch of clients in 2022. So their foray into ads hasn't been smooth, but they're smoothing it out. So hopefully they'll be able to get some revenue there. So let's talk about the mechanism of how this all happens, because most people don't know. You see, there's an upfront market, which is how the studios and streamers sell their wares to various advertisers. It also sees newer players such as Netflix and Amazon vying for advertising revenue as well. And they present a slate of shows which essentially gives these entities the opportunity to select what they want to buy package-wise to advertise on them. So you get, the regular shows that have been in place for a long time, and then a bunch of pilot presentations that, well, sometimes can be exciting and sometimes not. In the case of Netflix specifically, they really haven't been able to demonstrate substantial impressions, although that number is growing. And Amazon is faced with viewership declines on all of their offerings during, well, many things, but most importantly during their first season broadcast of Thursday Night Football, something that they expected would be worth the giant check they were writing every year, which I would argue, isn't working out very well. Now, Paramount Global is taking a very different approach since it actually controls the biggest game of the year, Super Bowl time. I think that's Super Bowl 58. 58! And they're being much more cautious. They're offering their ad space for $6.5 million for a 30-second spot.
That's so generous.
Which is lower than what Fox got in their last Super Bowl. So caution, yes. Like I said, they need to be careful, and they need to sell all their spots because, well, Paramount Global's in big trouble. Thanks a lot, Klutzman. So suffice it to say that everyone on the media side is scrambling, and the ad buyers, well, they're taking advantage of being able to be in a driver's seat for a change, so to speak. And I think we're actually looking at some very real power of platforms being diminished. And then you're looking at the increase in the power of platforms like YouTube, Rumble, and Kick, well, having a pretty glorious future, at least in the near term. Now, I already made a couple of allusions to the changes that YouTube has been making in the background because they obviously want to yield more of these advertising dollars. They're making it much easier, as I mentioned before, to monetize, especially for channels that may not qualify for what used to be the norm. You don't need that many subscribers any longer. They've reduced that by several hundred. And videos, well, you don't have to make that many of those either. And of course, the viewers have been reset to a much lower level as well, so that you now have a threshold where more and more individuals may enter the marketplace, or those who were already there may have a chance at getting some advertising dollars in the future. So the only downside is they're probably going to get ads that are on the lower end of things as far as revenue gaining, at least as far as CPM goes. So truly, there's no doubt that the future will be difficult for the networks and for streamers alike, at least when it comes to ad sales. And hopefully it's a new opportunity for creators like yours truly to pull away some of their revenue. I would argue we've already been doing that over the course of the last decade. And I think people are going to lean more and more into viewing on platforms and not necessarily on services, but that's probably a conversation for another day. Hey, if I pull in more ad revenue, it means I can take better care of Grant.
Is that a joke?
Wouldn't that be great, Grant?
Please, sir. I want some more.
Anyway, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands, of course, because it's good hygiene. And until next time, bye.
Today, be sure you're subscribed and hit that for alerts.
Yay!
Of course, like and share all of the videos that you can, as it helps with the algorithm. Have a great day.